Tiki and Tierney show. Not a whole lot to complain about so far. One game in for the Yankees and the Mets. Opening day is now in the rearview mirror. The pageantry, the fun. We had a great time in the Bronx. Thanks again to our friends over at the Hard Rock. Yanks win, Mets win. I want to actually start about something with the Mets here, Teak.
Go ahead.
So we were, I was telling you guys before the show. So I get a text while we're at the Hard Rock from my group of buddies, whatever. Half of knuckleheads texting, all the stuff that everybody texts, And I see this, it's a screenshot of the Verlander news, right? The Terrace Major strain. Now, half the guys on the chain are Yankee fans, roughly half are Met fans. So I never heard of that, the Terrace Major.
I've never heard of it either.
Okay, so I don't feel like a complete idiot. And as I read this quickly, because we were coming back on, no, I'm sorry, we were at our seats when I saw it. It was right after our show. It was during pregame. I'm saying, is that a part of the female body that I don't know? Like, are they making fun of? Like, I thought they were kind of,
joking, yeah.
Yeah, troll Yankees against Mets, Mets fans against Yankees. I'm like, what the hell is the Terrace Major? Well, it is a big problem for the Mets here. It's a big problem. Tristan McKenzie, who was a pretty explosive, good pitcher for the Guardians, still pretty young. He's out 2 months, roughly. I was watching, when we got back from the Bronx, Teak, I was watching MLB Network, and Plesac said he doesn't think that we'll necessarily see Verlander again until early June.
Wow.
Or before June, which I didn't even have that on my radar. Now, it's a low-grade strain. He's going to still throw the baseball. They're not completely shutting him down, so that's obviously more favorable than not. But to me, April for the Mets is not about coming out and flexing and establishing themselves and following up on last year's great 101-win regular season total. April for the New York Mets, with their first six on the road. They've got the Padres coming to city. They've got a 10-game West Coast trip within the first 2 weeks of the season. They're playing 4 with the Braves. To me, April is about not drowning. That's it. Don't drown.
That's a significant shift from where we thought the Mets would be coming into this season. Obviously, with their rotation and Quintana, who's on the 15-day IL. He's going to be longer than that, obviously. Senga, who's still trying to figure out, the Major League Baseball. I think he'll be fine ultimately. But Peterson is lined up to be the Game 2 starter now. Who obviously was supposed to be Verlander. Max Scherzer was great yesterday until he gave up the 2-run home run that ultimately was tied. But, look, their offense was good enough, especially once they got into Miami's bullpen.
Yeah, huge hit by Nimmo off the lefty.
Huge hit
Great at bat.
to immediately get back on top. And actually it allowed Scherzer to get the win. But once the Mets get into bullpens, especially against the lesser teams, you're not worried about them. But so I'm still, in my mind, I'm still thinking that the Mets can thrive in April. Maybe not to the extent that we thought they would. But remember back when spring training first started, BT, the thing that we talked about, and this was before Edwin Diaz, so that you have to take that into account. We talked about how deep they were pitching-wise, how deep their rotation could potentially be. In fact, we were talking about how they might be able to go to a 6-man rotation at times simply to weather the wear and tear of their 40-plus-year-old two aces, Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. So I'm actually not as worried as this may seem to be because of the Justin Verlander injury. And as long as it's not something major, not to pun on Terrace Major, but as long as it's not something truly major, I think they're going to be fine in April. I think they still have a shot because of how they play, right? It's not necessarily dependent on pitching, dependent on starting pitching, and if we don't have starting pitching, we have no chance to be successful. I think they're going to be fine, even with Verlander banged up.
I mean, listen, I hope that you're right. You just look at the NL, and listen, it's so early to conclude anything from the opening day win. The Mets basically never win on opening day. They've got, I think, like a
never lose.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Yes,
they
that's
never
what I meant.
lose.
Never lose on opening day. They've won roughly 70% of their openers. Yet, the Mets haven't won a World Series since '86. So, you certainly take away the components from the game. Nimmo's clutch hit, I thought that was a good at-bat by Lindor on the sac fly.
Yep.
Scherzer outside of the bomb where he left it over, looked really good. Bullpen was strong.
Yep.
I get it. There's a lot to like. They beat one of the 2-3 best pitchers in baseball. I'm not trying to minimize the win, but when you look at the overall state of the NL, we know the teams: Braves, Phillies, Padres, Dodgers, Cardinals. Although the Cardinals had a pretty big injury behind the plate, yes, that was crazy. Hit his shin guard, and Contreras, one of their big offseason. I was watching that live. Their big offseason pick. Did you see this? What happened?
No, I missed it.
I don't think I've ever seen this in baseball. So I forget who threw the pitch, but it was 103 miles an hour. And Wilson Contreras is a good catcher. He's not JT Realmuto, but he's good. And I don't know if he was crossed up. I guess he had to be. Otherwise, he would have gotten leather. He didn't even slightly, graze the glove, hit right off his shin guard, left the game. He's out. They thought he broke his kneecap. Now, he didn't. Wow. It's a bad contusion. He couldn't even walk, basically.
Wow.
So I say that because I think the Cardinals suffered a bit of an injury, which, might obviously compromise how they start the season. Listen, I said the other day, and I said this because I believe it, and again, both wins for the Yanks and Mets aside, I thought that there, and I still do, that there's a real chance that both of these teams enter May slightly below 500. This was before the Verlander news. I don't think you can minimize this.
Well, I'm not minimizing it because it's obviously a big deal. You spent a lot of money bringing.
Look at the rotation.
You're bringing in Justin Verlander. Yeah, I was just looking at the rotation.
And you like what you see?
Well, I don't love what I see, but I liked what I saw yesterday.
Because your ace was out there
after Scherzer went out of the game.
That's the bullpen. I'm talking about the rotation. You like this rotation?
Well, I don't.
Not now.
I don't mind David Peterson. I don't think he's.
I'm fine with him.
Think he's an ace in the making. But I don't mind David Peterson.
I agree. That's 40% of a rotation. 3 more spots.
You're right. Kodai Senga, he's going to be fine.
We'll see.
He's got the thumb thing that he had at the beginning of spring training. He's gotten over that. Hopefully gotten over the injury. We don't know how he's going to pitch once the regular season starts, but I got to have faith in him. We forget Carlos Carrasco had a pretty phenomenal year for him last season.
Yep.
And, if you can piece together, you might have to bullpen some of these things, but it is what it is. You can piece together these other couple of starts and weather the storm for, what are they saying? They're saying 2 or 3 weeks. It's probably going to be a month. If you could weather this storm, I think you're fine as a Mets team, especially because it's not solely dependent upon your starting rotation being elite. It's obviously what you would want, but you're not solely dependent upon that if you're the New York Mets. Yeah, it's troubling because it's Verlander and he's 40 years old, but it's not something that I feel is terminal or this early in the season.
877-337-6666. Tiki and Tierney here on The Fan. By the way, shout out to a couple of new voices that hopefully we will hear for a long time in this city. Justin Shackle, Keith Red. Obviously, I heard Justin on the way back from the game last night. And then, of course, I wanted to catch some of, Booney's press conference, whatever. And then I threw on the Mets on 880.
Don't forget my boy, Pat McCarthy. Post game.
I was getting there. I liked what I heard. I'm sure both guys were nervous. Not that you could really tell. But I thought Howie really did a nice job making Keith feel comfortable. And Justin is going to be great at this for the Yankees. So shout out to those guys. And, I do think it needs to be said to you. You have to look at the Verlander thing is one thing. And I to me, that strikes me as incredibly ominous. And I'm sorry, but when you're 40 years old and you've already, then again, he proved to bounce back from the elbow, so I shouldn't even incorporate that. But when you are 40, you don't bounce back immediately here, and a kid who's 25 is going to miss 2 months in Tristan McKenzie, who I referenced before from the Guardian. So, if that was ever the situation, I think if you're a Mets fan, you sign up right now for April and May at 500. Now, I don't think Met fans would.
I don't think they're going to lower their expectation just simply because of the Verlander. I know exactly what you're saying.
I don't think that they should just because of me. But if you step away from, the fandom and the whole, I would never, the Yankee fans said we should be 500, screw him. No, I get that. I respect that. I wouldn't want you to say that we should. But from the most, cerebral part of your brain, forgetting emotion about the emotion for a moment, to me, 500's the goal. Just get to June 1 at 500 for the Mets.
Wow, you're being...
Just get to 500.
You can't be alarmist off of off of this one injury.
Dude, their biggest offseason pickup might miss months.
I know, but it's funny because not funny.
And their other pickup is definitely missing months in Quintana.
It's not funny,
what do you mean,
but
alarmist?
it's kind of par for the course for the Mets. Because think about how we started last season. Max Scherzer's here. Oh, Max Scherzer's going to be awesome. You got two aces. Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, midway through spring training is like, deGrom's going to miss however many weeks, months it turns out to be. It ended up being half the season. Actually, more than half the season because it was post All-Star break that he came back. But it was just this alarmist mentality. And then they go out and they win 101 games. It's kind of similar. It's Max Scherzer's fantastic, and you got Justin Verlander. You got these two aces. Justin Verlander's got an injury. He's going to miss 2 weeks or maybe 2 months, and I still believe the Mets are going to find a way. Now, David Peterson is going today. Saturday, it's going to be, and again, this kind of symmetry. Tyler McGill is likely to get the start on Saturday, and I think they.
I don't think is very good, but I'm just telling you, that's just my opinion. I don't think he's average.
You got Senga on Saturday.
I'm looking forward to seeing him pitch.
On Sunday.
I'm looking forward to that.
And then
he's got to be the real deal, and I think he might be.
And then Monday you got Carrasco. And
so
if Senga does his job, Carrasco is exactly as he was last year, and Tyler McGill gives you a month like he did a year ago of good starts. You're fine as the Mets. You're not alarmist. Simply because one guy in their rotation went down. Because I think the depth of their starting rotation and their bullpen was one of their big assets coming into this season. Now, it's still got to play itself out. But that, as we talked about this at the beginning of spring training, that was one of the things you pointed to. It wasn't, they're going to hit, they're going to lead the league in home runs. They're never going to do that. But they are clutch. Nimmo was clutch. Lindor was clutch. These guys got on base, and they did the things they needed to do after Scherzer gave up the lead, which felt like it was going to sustain itself for the rest of the game because how good Scherzer was pitching. But as soon as they got even, they found a way to smash in 2 more runs and got a big win on the road against Miami.
First 6 on the road, 3 with the Padres, 10-game West Coast trip, and then 4 with the Braves without Verlander. That's tough. 877-337-6666. So we're inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guarantee lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. How about that stuff with Alonso? Did they get back to first base in time? Can I hit you with a stat before we get to the phones?
Go ahead.
So this, to me, is amazing. You want a little encapsulation of opening day with the new accelerated pace to baseball?
Amazing.
This is awesome. So last year on opening day, all the games, there were 9 stolen bases attempt. 9 times. 9. 5 success rate, right? A little better than 50%. Yesterday, there were 23 attempts. 21 guys made it. So that's one thing. There were 13. I lost my voice yelling at the game yesterday, by the way. That's you go to the games.
Cold. It's because it was cold.
It was cold. I was yelling. Judge going yards. First at bat, sick. 14 violations and average time 2:45.
2:45. Yeah.
2:45.
That's great. Average time of last season's, not last opening day, but last season was 3:11.
Yes, 3:11.
So I mean that's a lot of minutes.
I'm going to tell you one thing that's gonna really, I think, very early, maybe even today, infiltrate our airwaves, especially as Met fans get to City because they're not there yet. Obviously, starting the season on the road. One thing that I noticed, now we had a great deal with Uber Eats and we got plenty of food and they hooked us up. We had a great time with the winners.
Yep.
We were
Alex and Eddie.
Eddie was awesome and he brought out great guys. Uber Eats was really awesome. But Colt wanted some ice cream. I was looking for a Volpe shirt, whatever. So we left and we were going to get something to eat. Can I tell you that I was on a concession line, and I don't complain about this stuff because if you're going to you want to go eat, you're going to have to stand in line. I get this. But the accelerated pace of the game, I missed almost 2 innings.
I know. I mean, you left, and I was like, where did BT go? Maybe he went to the bathroom. Colt had to go or whatever.
Oh, I had to do that, too, with him. Yeah,
But
still,
it felt like you were gone forever because the game went so fast.
That's going to be something that people are going to have to plan for. I'm telling you. And if you were at the game yesterday, you know what I'm saying. All right, let's get to you. You'll say, it's the Met hater. Nope, I got love for you guys. I think you should be worried.
Don't break out the song. Don't break out the song yet.
Enough of love for you. Do you think, boy? Rob's in Queens. What's cooking, Robbie? How are you? Robert.
Don't start a Friday.
Push.
Not ready.
Oh, good
Robert,
God.
what's up? Robert's not up.
All right, we got to clip this guy. What are you doing, man?
No.
This guy is, Jeff's in Fairfield. What's happening, Jeff? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Jeff?
Hey, how are you guys?
We're
Good,
good,
Jeff.
All right, so I used to practice sports medicine. I'm retired now. And the teres major is part of the rotator cuff.
Yep.
So the question becomes, and I'm going to presume that they're doing an MRI today to see what the extent of the injury is.
They're going to
If it's-
rescan.
if
I thought
they-
they said in a couple of days they're going to rescan. But, yeah, they're obviously going to do that. Yes, keep going.
Right. So if it's a strain or a small tear, it's basically rehab, and usually takes around 3 months. If it's a big tear or a through and through tear, it could mean surgery.
Wow.
Well, Jeff with the optimistic call
I
today.
know.
Let's get him a prize here.
Thanks,
All right,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Appreciate you.
Jeez, Jeff. I told you, Jeff, I want to ask you something. I told you, Teak, when I heard Plesac say that on MLB Network at about 7 o'clock last night, I'm thinking 10 days. I'm thinking, just long toss, you'll be fine. He said he doesn't think he's going to pitch till June.
Yeah, and the concerning thing, just to jump on your side of this for a second, the concerning thing is this didn't happen in a game. It wasn't acute. It wasn't Justin Verlander feeling something, shaking out his arm and saying, something's not quite right. Let me pull myself. It's happened sometime in the last week.
Yeah.
I don't know when the last time he threw or when we saw him throw.
Well, there was a dip in velocity by 2-ish, 3 miles per hour. He acknowledged that. We saw it.
The fact that this didn't happen acutely and it wasn't aware to us until opening day tells me that maybe he's been dealing with this for a little bit now.
Maybe, and he's been fighting through because
Yeah.
it's his first year with the Mets. Justified, not that he needs to justify the money. He's a Hall of Famer, but new town, he's a competitor. So, Jeff, what is the rehab? What do you do here? How do you attack this?
It's basically it's shoulder rehab. It's going to be mobility exercises and gradual strengthening, possibly using ultrasound or some other techniques. But it's fairly standard.
Okay.
So if it's something that's sort of been like progressing slowly, it is unlikely that it's a tear.
Well, Jeff, by the way, you say it's fairly common. I've never heard of it in my life.
No, I didn't say it was common. I said what I said was
You mean the rehab is like how you
the
rehab
is
something like
pretty
this?
common. Yeah, the rehab is pretty
Okay,
common.
got you. Meaning it's not incredibly invasive. I got you. My bad. Thanks for the call there, Jeff. Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
you,
Well,
Jeff.
there you go. Something to worry about there.
Still not worried. Tyler McGill.
No, stop, dude.
Saturday and opening day at City.
That's the other thing. He's going to miss the home opener at City. That stinks. He was obviously slated for that. Hoff, if I can call upon Mr. Hoff for a moment. He's the big voice of the Mets on the show, devout Mets guy. You worried? Honestly.
No, I'm
You're not?
I'm disappointed.
Okay.
But I'm not worried. I still think this team is still capable of winning 90-plus games with this team that's intact right now.
I mean, are you just worried? Are you worried about Verlander? Just Verlander?
No, So I did a podcast with Evan yesterday, and he geeked out and did the research on the MLB ball players that have had this. The worst has been 146 days of recovery time. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But that still gets us.
Basically 80% of the season.
Okay, but this is the same thing I said last year.
4 months.
When DeGrom got hurt, it's about the playoffs. The Mets are making the playoffs, even with Verlander missing half the season. So if Verlander can be healthy for the playoffs, that's all we really need him for.
I respect it. I think that's a big assumption that the Mets are just ticketed no matter what. And I think that's part of my apprehension here. Why? Listen, they say this a lot about golf. Like, you're not going to win the Masters on Thursday, but you might lose it. If you shoot a 77, you might shoot yourself out of it with a sloppy Saturday or certainly a sloppy Friday, not even make the cut. The Mets cannot shoot themselves out of the season in April. And based on the circumstances, based on the schedule, unfortunately, I think that there's a chance that they could. 877-337-6666. So we'll get you calls. Obviously, weave in the Yankee stuff as well. Tiki and Tierney right here on a Friday on The Fan.